Hello everyone and welcome to another video. In yesterday's video we saw how Magnus struggled with the black pieces and could only get a draw. But today he was playing with the white pieces, so I was very curious to see how he was going to do. He was playing Alexander Naumann, a grandmaster from Germany, and Magnus opened the game up with the move 1e4. His opponent responded with e5, knight f3, knight c6. And here at the top level we see a lot of Ruy Lopez, we see a lot of Italian, but Magnus decides to go for the Scotch game, something we don't see a whole lot at the top level. So his opponent took, and knight f6, one of the main moves. Magnus takes on c6, takes, and e5, hitting this knight on f6. So queen e7 to pin the pawn, queen e2, all of this is theory, knight at d5. And here Magnus plays a slightly offbeat move. The main move here is the move c4 to hit the knight on d5, and black can play bishop a6 here to pin the pawn, or the move knight b6, so just move the knight out of the way. But Magnus decides to go for knight at d2. And here his opponent plays a slightly offbeat move. The main move here is the move g6 to try and fianchetto the bishop to hit this pawn on e5. But his opponent played knight f4, hitting the queen on e2. Magnus went queen e3, knight d5, and obviously Magnus is not interested in a repetition. He goes queen e4, f6, putting pressure on the pawn on e5. And here Magnus goes for a very interesting but also a risky concept. He could have just played a move like f4, defending the pawn on e5, and if black takes, you recapture. And it seems that this trade is favoring white. You can develop very quickly with bishop d3, I guess short castles, and white seems to be doing well. But Magnus went for the move c4, hitting the knight in the center. Alright, so his opponent played knight at b4, and here things are tricky. You can no longer take on f6 because now black has knight c2, the queen is pinned, and white loses the rook in the corner due to the fork. But Magnus decided to stop that by playing the move king d1. Alright, weird looking move. His opponent took the pawn on e5, a3, hitting the knight on b4, takes, and knight a6. And at first glance you might wonder, like, okay, what has Magnus gained? He's down a pawn in the endgame, he's also lost the right castle, but he shows his idea here. He wants to go b4. And it's very difficult for this knight to come back into the game. Now, to be fair, black could have played and should have played the move knight at b8, and after bishop d3, a move like d5 or d6 to bring this knight back as quickly as possible. But his opponent played the move c5, knight king b5, hitting the knight, bishop b7, and a small intermezzo, hitting the knight on e4, bishop d3 by Magnus, knight b8, and rook e1. Alright, so Magnus is threatening a discovery on the king, on the e-file. So his opponent played king f7, and now Magnus played another very good move. He played knight c3. And you might wonder, like, okay, why does he want to move this knight away from the center? But if you play a move like king c2, you might give black the option of going d6 and knight d7. If this knight comes into the game, black is completely fine. So the point behind knight c3 is that if black plays d6 here, Magnus wants to go bishop f5 to cut off knight d7, and also this check over here will be pretty nasty. Okay, so black played bishop d6, developing the bishop, also hitting this pawn. And Magnus is already down one pawn here, and he just sacrifices another one. Alright, black takes, and he's like, I don't care, he just goes king c2. But again, look at the position. Black is up 2 pawns, but how do you get this knight into the game? And if you don't get this knight into the game, you also don't get your rook into the game. So black played g6. Now came bishop e2 by Magnus, sacrificing another pawn. Black took it. Now came rook e2, hitting the bishop on g2, and now also this rook comes into the game. And Magnus plays this part of the game with such impressive accuracy. Bishop b7, rook f1, hitting the bishop, and black is already in a world of trouble. If you move the bishop back, white unleashes knight at d5, opens up the bishop, and black is just getting brutally checkmated here. So you cannot go into this. So his opponent played g5, holding down the bishop on f4, but Magnus just goes h4. And what does black do here? White is trying to open up lines towards the black king. If you go h6, white just goes h5. And bishop g6 is coming. And again, the white rooks enter the position, and there's just no hope for black. So black played d6, trying to get the knight into the game. Now Magnus took on g5. The problem is, if you recapture here, white just goes bishop c1. And again, if this bishop disappears, then black is just getting brutally checkmated here. An important line shows that if black goes rook e8 to try to get some trades in, white takes here, and after rook takes e2 check, there is bishop d2 check, blocking the check, and next up you take the rook, and white is up a piece. So Alexander played bishop e5, now came knight e4, Again, Magnus wants to bring this bishop into the game, but also the knight. Knight at d7, Magnus took here, black recaptured, he took an e5, black recaptured. And after Magnus took here, black resigned. Black is still up a piece in this position, but he is going to lose this knight on f6. Also, his entire structure is collapsing, and there's just no hope here, especially not against Magnus Carlsen. Anyway, I thought this was a great game by Magnus. That's why I wanted to share it with all of you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.